James Flavin is an unlikely comedian. He's involved in Christian work, ministry and outreach to help people in their own work, some work particularly with teenagers in school. And in his own words, he described himself as a middle-aged dad. I suppose that's a comedy line in itself, isn't it?
I think it is.
Yeah. Despite having all the credentials of being anything but funny, James shares the stage with many of Sydney's leading comedians at the Comedy Store. Melbourne has its own comedy festival and Sydney does too, and we're delighted about that. Welcome, James.
G'day.
James, what led Generate, a work that reaches young people in schools?
Generate is a joint work between the Anglicans, the Baptists, the Presbyterians and Scripture Union to get into high schools for Scripture and to all schools with chaplaincy. It's the well-being of kids that we're looking after. Life's difficult for kids these days, more difficult when we were younger, and we want to get in there, help the well-being, get alongside these kids and help them grow up to be all they can be. That's an important part of your life, but come on, let's talk about how do you become a stand-up comedian? That's a good question. When I was at school and uni, other blokes had the rock and roll and the jazz and the blues. I was a comedy nerd. They were taping songs off the radio. I was taping the Goon Show. I'd go and see the live shows in some very dingy places. If my parents knew some of those dingy places, they would have been upset. And after years and years of watching, I thought, no, I'm going to have a go at this. So last year I was a part of the Sydney Fringe Festival, did some shows up in King's Cross, a long way from my personal comfort zone, I guess. And there were shows before and after, which were some more traditional comedy and other things. But the shows that I do, we try to make sure my Christian integrity isn't damaged.
I want to talk about that because, look, comedians have different tastes. What sort of humour is your humour? Yeah,
so comedy needs to have a villain, someone you're making fun of, and in my case it's me, primarily, because I'm a white, middle-class, middle-aged man in Australia. That makes me funny to start with. When you reflect on someone, C.S. Lewis was a big influence on me as a kid. In the Screwtape Letters, there's a conversation between Screwtape and Wormwood about laughter. And Screwtape says that laughter has 4 causes. There is joy, that reunion of old friends. There's play. And I think when I was wrestling with my boy when he was a toddler, that laughter comes from that. You've got the joke proper, you know, where there's that twist. And then you have that frivolous area, that area of flippancy, which Lewis said is 1,000 miles away from joy and it deadens the intellect. If someone's doing humour because we have a female comedian with red hair or a male comedian with red budgie smugglers, that's flippancy, that's not comedy. What you want to do is to increase the joy, increase the integrity, increase the happiness without tearing others down.
That's right. And that's not dependent on vulgarity of language, is it? Or any of those things that so many people depend upon?
Not at all. And comedy is about building those relationships. So even, you know, at Christmas time, when you read those gosh awful cracker jokes,
yes,
they don't have to be funny, but you have that laugh together, you build community. And you want to do that in a positive way, as opposed to ganging up on someone to make fun of them.
Do you know, we still sit round and read those, you know.
Oh, we love them. and I notice as I get older and, you know, more of a dad, I just think the comedy's brilliant in those. My kid's grown.
Now, what about some people who say, you know, it's okay being a singer, it's okay being a... But it's a bit dubious, all this comedy and Christianity.
I've had a few people say, how can you run a ministry organisation in the daytime and go into a stand-up club at night?
Indeed.
And it's storytelling. So you want to tell a story that has funny aspects. You would tell this, there's a punchline, but there's things along the way. I don't think you're allowed to live in Australia unless you can tell a funny story in the bar or the cafe or the club. It's a part of who we are as a people. But you've got to find ways of doing that without resorting to the easy bits. So I do a part in my festival show where I say there is no bad language in this show, but I do have this tree over here of forbidden words. So I can't use, you know, the Z word or the X word or the E word in my comedy. It's all got to keep it clean. Now, I don't think there is a Z, X or E word, but watching people trying to puzzle through what word is he thinking about is always good fun to watch.
And I think people get this a bit funny. I think Jesus used images that would people would smile at, wouldn't they?
Well, when you look at Jesus' miracles, he heals people by touching them or with a word, and sometimes they're remote. He stops a storm by just saying it. He breaks bread to share with 5,000. But remember that time when Jesus is going into the temple and they say, and Peter is asked, why isn't your rabbi paying the temple tax? And Jesus says to Peter, okay, so we don't offend them, go out there, throw a line in the water, and you'll catch a fish with a 4 denarius coin in its mouth. Now, Jesus could have gone, here's the coin, as some sort of modern magician would. No, that's funny. When the woman says to Jesus, I have no husband, and Jesus says, well, no, the man you have now isn't your husband, and neither were the other half dozen blokes, that's funny.
And I think that the real challenge for us is to be able to be in those places. I don't expect yours is just about church communication, is it? Many people in your audience wouldn't be Christians.
No, and from all over the shop, people I've known who've worked with, some who are going along to think, okay, this is going to be a train wreck, I need to see how this works out. And people have come off the street, and it's always a good mixed crowd.
Just to close, because we'll have a word later on in the show, what would be the pitfall to anybody, entering this world?
You need to know what you want to do and what you want to say, and you need to know at what line you're going to stop. The temptation is to go further and to say things that are wrong. You need to know when to stop.
James, if someone's listening into our conversation and they want to have a dream about what they might want to do, take a leap of faith into the arts, what would you say, whether it's singing, acting, painting, dancing, whatever it is, what would you say to them?
Make sure you've got your act together, work it through, practice it, rehearse it with some people who are going to be honest to you. And if it's up there, go out and do it. Don't put it off, do it, have a go. The worst thing that can happen is it doesn't work. But if it works, it's fantastic.
So there's a degree of faith in getting out there and doing it.
Oh, gosh, yes.
Yes, I can only imagine what it's like if you're in the middle of a stage and it doesn't go well.
Yeah, it can be very bad indeed.
So what you've got to do is be willing to step out there and do it. Thank you for joining with us, James, and we wish you well with the work that you're doing. Good on you too.